My name is Hannah, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a project manager at a tech company, and I'm about to marry the love of my life, Ryan. Everything seemed perfect, at least until his mother got involved. I met Ryan, who's 2 years younger than me, on a dating app. We instantly clicked, and after dating for 2 years, we decided to get married. Ryan's father, Mr. Thompson, welcomed me with open arms when we first told his parents about our engagement. He was all smiles, offering his heartfelt congratulations. But Ryan's mom, Carol, was a different story. She looked me up and down with a judging glare, and the warmth in her eyes never reached her lips. The moment Ryan mentioned we had met online, her expression turned even more sour. "I don't approve," Carol said bluntly. "You met on some app, and Hannah comes from a broken family? I don't think this is appropriate." I could feel the blood drain from my face as her words struck me like a slap. Broken family? My parents divorced when I was young, but that never made my family broken. "Mom, that's enough," Ryan said, his voice tight. His dad also tried to calm her, saying, "Come on, Carol. Times have changed. Meeting online is normal these days." But Carol wouldn't budge. She looked at me as if I were some kind of invader. I forced a smile, trying not to show just how hurt I felt. I naively thought I could win Carol over. After all, Ryan loved me, and I loved him. I tried visiting her more often, helping out with household chores whenever we went over for family dinners, and even bringing her small gifts. None of it worked. Carol was set on disliking me, and she didn't even try to hide it. She always had some passive-aggressive comment ready. "Oh, Hannah, you're still working full-time? You know, a real wife takes care of her husband and the home." Ryan always stepped in to defend me, but it never seemed to stop her. Things got worse when we started planning the wedding. Carol insisted on being involved in every decision, from the flower arrangements to the seating chart. She wanted everything her way, even though Ryan and I had our own vision for the ceremony. One afternoon, while we were at her house, Carol announced, "We should go with the lilies for the centerpieces. They're classic and elegant." I glanced at Ryan, and he gave me a small nod, encouraging me to speak up. "Actually, we were thinking of using sunflowers," I said, smiling. "They're bright and cheerful, and they mean a lot to us." Carol frowned, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Sunflowers? At a wedding? That sounds tacky," she scoffed. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my cool. Ryan squeezed my hand, his eyes apologetic, but I could see he was frustrated too. I tried to reason with myself, thinking, it's just flowers, it's not worth the fight. But it wasn't just the flowers, it was everything. Every little detail that I wanted, Carol would find a way to dismiss or undermine. The situation came to a boiling point 1 week before the wedding. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of the whole process, the day I picked out my wedding dress. My best friend Emily came with me, and to my surprise, Carol showed up unannounced. I tried to be polite even though her presence made me uneasy. I had my heart set on a beautiful lace mermaid dress. It hugged my body perfectly, and when I stepped out of the dressing room, Emily gasped, "Hannah, you look stunning. This dress was made for you." I twirled in front of the mirror, feeling genuinely happy, when Carol's voice cut through the moment. "Number absolutely not." My smile faltered. "What's wrong with it?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. Carol crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing at the dress. "It's too revealing. You're supposed to be a bride, not not this. It's vulgar." I blinked, stunned by her harshness. Emily opened her mouth to say something, but I shook my head, giving her a pleading look. I didn't want to create a scene, especially not here. But Carol wasn't finished. "I already spoke to the store manager," she said, her voice dripping with authority. "They have a more appropriate gown picked out for you, something with long sleeves and a high neck. Much more respectable." I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. Respectable? This was my wedding day. It was supposed to be about Ryan and me, about our love, our choices. I wanted to wear the dress that made me feel beautiful, not one chosen by someone who clearly disapproved of everything I was. "No, Carol," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "I'm going to wear this dress." Carol's face darkened. You're making a mistake, Hannah. A real wife knows how to listen to her elders. If you can't even do that, how do you expect to keep a marriage together? Her words cut deep, but I refused to back down. Ryan was furious when I told him what had happened. He called his mom that evening, and I could hear the heated argument from the other room. He defended me, telling Carol that it was my choice, and if she couldn't respect that, then maybe she shouldn't come to the wedding at all. I felt a mix of emotions. Relief that Ryan had my back, but also guilt. I didn't want to be the reason for a rift in their family. On the morning of the wedding, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I wanted it to be a perfect day, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to go wrong. Emily tried to reassure me as we got ready, saying, "Today's about you and Ryan. Don't let anyone else take that away from you." I nodded, trying to believe her words. The ceremony was beautiful, despite all the chaos leading up to it. The sunflowers we chose looked stunning, and seeing Ryan standing at the altar made my heart swell. For a moment, it felt like everything was going to be okay. We exchanged vows, and I could see tears in Ryan's eyes as he promised to love me forever. I felt a warmth spread through me, thinking that maybe, just maybe, we could finally be happy. But then came the reception. Carol, dressed in an elaborate gown that almost overshadowed mine, grabbed the microphone. I felt a chill run down my spine as she stood in front of the guests, her smile too wide, too forced. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice echoing through the room. "Thank you all for being here today to celebrate this union. As Ryan's mother, I just want to say a few words." I exchanged a nervous glance with Ryan, who looked equally uneasy. Carol continued, "I've always believed that marriage is about compromise and discipline, and as Hannah's new mother-in-law, I will take it upon myself to ensure that she learns how to properly care for my son. After all, a wife's duty is to her husband." A few awkward chuckles rippled through the audience, but most people just stared, unsure if she was serious. I felt my face flush, anger bubbling inside me. This was supposed to be our day, and here she was, making it all about her outdated beliefs. I glanced at Ryan, expecting him to step in, to say something, anything to stop her. But he just sat there, looking embarrassed, his eyes glued to the floor. Carol wasn't done. A wife should wake up early, clean the house, prepare meals, and make sure her husband is always comfortable. That's what makes a successful marriage, she declared, her voice full of conviction. I could see the looks of discomfort on the faces of our friends and family. Even Mr. Thompson looked mortified, his face buried in his hands. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, my heart pounding. "Enough, Carol," I said, my voice carrying through the room. The guests turned to look at me, their eyes wide. "This is not your wedding. This is mine and Ryan's, and I will not be treated like this." I could feel the tension in the room, the suspense thick as everyone waited to see what would happen next. Carol looked taken aback, her eyes narrowing. "Hannah, sit down. You're making a scene," she hissed. I shook my head, the anger I had held back for so long finally breaking free. "No, Carol, you're the one making a scene. You've tried to control every aspect of this wedding, and I've had enough. I love Ryan, but I will not be treated as less just because I don't fit your outdated idea of what a wife should be." Ryan finally stood up, his face pale. He looked at me, then at his mother. "Mom, you need to stop," he said, his voice trembling. "This is our day. If you can't support us, then maybe you should leave." Carol looked like she had been slapped. She opened her mouth to say something, but Mr. Thompson stood up, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Carol, let's go," he said quietly. "You've done enough." For a moment, I thought she might argue, but then she closed her mouth, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. She turned on her heel and walked out, Mr. Thompson following behind her. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, my entire body shaking. The room was silent for a moment, and then Emily started clapping. One by one, the guests joined in, the tension slowly melting away. Ryan walked over to me, wrapping his arms around me. "I'm so sorry, Hannah," he whispered. I looked up at him, tears welling in my eyes. "Just promise me we'll always stand up for each other," I said. He nodded, his eyes full of emotion. "I promise." The rest of the evening went by in a blur. There was laughter, dancing, and so much love. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe. I realized that this was what mattered. Ryan and me, standing together, no matter what. Carol's disapproval no longer felt like a weight on my shoulders. I knew it wouldn't be easy, that there would still be challenges ahead. But I also knew that as long as Ryan and I faced them together, we would be okay. As the night came to a close, Ryan and I shared a quiet moment on the dance floor, the lights dimmed and the music soft. He looked down at me, his eyes filled with love. "I'm sorry about everything," he said again. I shook my head, resting my head on his chest. "We got through it," I whispered. "That's all that matters." And in that moment, I knew it was true. No matter what Carol or anyone else thought, we had each other, and that was enough. The days following the wedding were a mix of emotions. I felt a sense of freedom, but also an underlying tension about what would happen next with Carol. Ryan assured me that he would handle it, and I trusted him. He wanted to create boundaries with his mother, and I knew that wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary for us to have a healthy relationship. One evening, a few weeks after the wedding, Ryan received a call from his mother. He put it on speaker, and I could hear the tension in her voice. "Ryan, I've been thinking a lot about what happened," she began, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "I'm not saying I agree with everything, but I want to try. For you." I looked at Ryan, and he gave me a small smile, squeezing my hand. "Thanks, Mom," he said. "That means a lot. But you need to understand that Hannah and I are a team. We make decisions together, and I need you to respect that." There was a pause on the other end, and then Carol sighed. I'll try," she said. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. And for now, that was enough. As Ryan hung up, he turned to me, his eyes filled with hope. "We're going to be okay," he said. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. "Yes, we are," I replied. And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it.